2, and 1. So this debate is about extent. It's not a binary. It's not that government won't make any money. It's that the money that they do won't be used for shitty purposes. Joseph was quite clear in this characterization. I don't think opposition's lack of a legitimate response can lead to them winning this round. A lot of response towards Opbench. 1. The main benefit, or the first benefit that LO says, is that they have a lot of research and that they supercharge the process for this research. 1. This is a very lazy impact. It's inherently uncharitable for OO to say that the benefit of research applies exclusively to them, because it doesn't. In fact, the info slide explains as to why our side is inherently just a lot more able at getting that research, because these companies are literally mandated to share their results. So if they want to talk about boxing out the next Alan Turing, it is their side that does it at the point in which these companies are incentivized to hide these documentations. Note, because this is the core difference that Joseph points out that they don't respond to. The for-profit way that opposition has to champion necessarily means companies are a lot more less open about sharing that particular knowledge, because that information is the way in which they can win the rat race of developing the best AI model. So this mech hasn't been responded to. OO cannot get away with the list of impacts that they have. 2. We don't particularly think that everyone should develop AI. That's exactly where you get huge bouts of redundancy in business models where you lower the barrier of entry to come in. On opposition, everyone is blinded by profit incentives, and that's exactly what leads to overvalued corporations, hype and dump schemes, and the inability to think longer term or bigger picture. On our side, we are able to get those with clear and noble intentions, who are able to think in a more benevolent and nuanced perspective, not just prioritizing money. That's literally their particular policy. That's what we mandate. 3. A lot of what LO says can still happen even if profit incentives aren't the sole priority. The trade-off we are willing to make sure is that there may be less players and it's slower, but we get more concentrated efforts when we cut through the noise. The biggest thing that Joseph preempts is the harm of a regulatory capture wherein you create perverse incentive structures and conflicts of interests where, between large players and bureaucratic government institutions. Lastly, LO shotguns impacts and says a lot of benefits of capitalism, but it's not the most nuanced to the kind of model that we propose. We are clear about how we can capture the benefits of profitability. It simply isn't the only metric or the most important one. We support integration, open source accessibility, and building communities. Note that they can say all of that, but it's not like our side is able to get at it worse because we are literally mandating that to happen. So it's just a lot more easy and a lot more reasonable for you to believe us. Before the extension, go sure to take the PY.
How do you contend with the extreme economic benefits that are created because of better AI that is created by for-profit models, by better training through more data, which is through AI integrated workflows or automation of large AIs or create APIs?
Cool. That's actually my extension. The extension is, for the user, why AI on our side becomes very democratized, why it is easier for people to use the best versions of AI, and why their side is inherently susceptible to perverse monetization practices. Again, this is for the user, that's the extension. The first reason this is true is just on the basis of what is happening right now. Artificial intelligence is being monetized and having its premium versions being locked behind a lot of subscription fees. You can't get ChatGPT at its most advanced now, you need ChatGPT Plus. You can't get Gemini anymore, you need to get Gemini Advanced Edition, right? This is particularly harmful because the use case for these advanced versions are just a lot more helpful, right? So yeah, it might not be as obvious as to the examples that LO cherry picks, but it does happen and it will continue to happen if you prioritize profit. The point is, this monetization is only the beginning and the direct system of the shift towards no cap profit maximization that exists on side up. That's the inherent problem. And note that this is likely to be the start, but the way in which AI companies are likely to gatekeep and lock these features are already snowballing right now. No. Now, you cannot make images without subscription. You can't record videos. You can't analyze on a really in-depth level. You can't do a bunch of advanced features because companies on a fully profit model, as to what Joseph has characterized, have every reason to want to play unfair and gatekeep their exclusivity and literally rise up the price for you to use it. Note that opposition cannot be glib in responding to this because if there is any implicit agreement in this debate, it's that AI is an incredibly useful tool for people, and the next assumption tied to that is that we want the most amount of people to experience the best version of AI possible. Impact and why this is crucial. On our side of the house, the benefits of artificial intelligence and mainstream AI are just a lot more accessible, a lot more useful. Literally, every single company under our model is mandated to keep things open source. What this means is that at our worst, you are still able to access all the exclusive benefits in status quo right now without that monetary cost. On their side of the house, there will always be a pressure and always be a push towards making things a lot more gate-kept. Why is this mech important? How should you weigh this? We aren't saying that there will be no monetization that exists on our side whatsoever. What we are saying is that the monetization that does exist has no incentive to continue to proliferate and become worse. On accessibility, people are broadly more able to access the best versions of AI on our world. On their side, companies are pushed to gatekeep that. The second weighing metric you should attribute to OG is on long-term and short-term sustainability. Again, our side is slow. It might not be as fast as op, but the advancement that happens on us is likely to continue to benefit the average person because, given the sharing of knowledge for these particular things, it's just a lot more better for us to do. The second mechanism, very quickly, is on the prevention of making these AIs a lot more malicious. Here's why I want to explain why the continued advancement of AI on op is a bad thing. Let's take op at their best. What happens when AI companies make money? Well, it's quite reasonable to assume that they'll probably want to diversify into specific branches of AI, right? To segment their place in the market. What does that mean? What that means is the perverse usage of AI gets better. Literally, deep faking gets a hell of a lot more advanced. Hacking gets a hell of a more advanced. Forgery gets a hell of a lot more advanced. This is systematically likely to happen for the following reasons. Large language models are a really congested market. Other companies are likely to develop models and things that target other realms and other industries. Note that this is particularly bad because now it's incredibly secretive and not transparent. The proliferation of their benefits doesn't just explain at the best things that they can achieve, but in limiting the worst things that are possible. On our side of the house, all of these things have just a lot more pressure to not want to continue to be used or not want to continue to be developed. It's on their side of the house when there exists no particular safety measures or the measures that currently exist on our side doesn't apply to them, make it a hell of a lot easier for all of these AI and the way it's used in a bad way to continue to proliferate. I think it's very clear as to why we win. All those reasons propose.